We're your guides for deep dives into significant legal rulings. Today, we're really getting into a major one.
Yeah.
The Indian Supreme Court's decision from February 15th, 2024. We're focusing on the electoral bond scheme. It caused quite a stir, didn't it? Huge implications for transparency, for fairness and democracy.
It really did. This case, it goes right to the heart of political funding in India, and importantly, how that funding connects to your right to know as a voter. A really pivotal moment.
Definitely pivotal. So maybe let's start with the basics for anyone who needs a refresher.
Yeah.
What exactly were these electoral bonds? Why were they brought in?
Okay. So electoral bonds, they came about through the electoral bond scheme in 2018. They were a pretty unique method for people or companies to give money to political parties. Think of them like bearer banking instruments. When someone bought a bond, the bank knew who they were, the usual know your customer or KYC checks. But the bond itself, no name on it. Anonymous, essentially, to the public eye.
And they came in different values.
Yeah, quite a range. From 1,000 rupees up to 1 crore. They were only valid for 15 days, and critically, only eligible political parties could cash them in using specific bank accounts.
Okay, so anonymous donations, practically speaking. And that anonymity, that's exactly why people challenged the scheme, right? What were the main arguments against it?
Exactly. The petitioners argued the whole setup, the scheme itself, plus changes to laws like the Reserve Bank of India Act, Representation of the People Act, Income Tax Act, the Companies Act was unconstitutional. Their core arguments were, twofold mainly. First, it stepped on the voters' fundamental right to information. And second, it allowed unlimited money from corporations, which they argued wasn't fair, a violation of the right to equality.
Let's unpack that right to information point. That's Article 19(1)(a) of the Constitution, freedom of speech and expression, which includes the right to know. How did the court connect confidential donations to an infringement of your right to know? It seems a bit indirect.
That's a great question. You see, the court made a distinction. While the scheme offered what you might call legal anonymity from the public de jure anonymity, it didn't actually guarantee anonymity from the political parties. And here's the key thing. Information asymmetry. The central government, through the State Bank of India, could potentially figure out who the donors were.
But not the average citizen.
Exactly, not you, the voter. The court said this asymmetry was a problem because, well, how can you make an informed choice at the ballot box if you don't know who might be funding the parties seeking your vote? That information is vital. The secrecy hid crucial details.
That makes sense. Now, the government defended the bonds, saying they'd help curb black money in politics and protect donors from potential harassment. How did the court respond to those points?
Well, regarding black money, the court basically said, look, this electoral bond scheme isn't the only way to deal with that. It wasn't the least restrictive option available. They pointed to things like electoral trusts. These trusts already existed. They collect donations from various sources and distribute them to parties, disclosing aggregate data to the Election Commission of India. It's more transparent, offering a balance.
So a less opaque alternative was already there.
Precisely. And on donor privacy. The court acknowledged that, yes, who you support politically is private information, a fundamental right, but they ruled the scheme just didn't strike the right balance. It didn't adequately weigh that privacy against the voters' need for transparency, especially since, as we said, real anonymity wasn't guaranteed anyway.
Okay, moving beyond the information aspect, what about the unlimited corporate funding? Removing the cap, that seems like a huge deal. How did the court tackle that?
Oh, absolutely huge. The court struck down the amendment that got rid of the previous cap on corporate donations that used to be 7.5% of a company's average net profits over 3 years. They called removing the cap manifestly arbitrary. That's strong legal language, meaning it was clearly unreasonable without adequate justification.
Why arbitrary?
Because allowing unlimited donations, even from companies that were losing money, creates a serious risk. It could give corporations way too much influence over elections, over policymaking. It potentially creates quid pro quo situations. You scratch my back, I'll scratch yours.
And that violates equality.
Yes, under Article 14 of the Constitution, the court stressed that you just can't treat companies and individuals the same when it comes to political donations. Companies, especially large ones, have a vastly different capacity to influence. Unlimited anonymous funding could distort the democratic process entirely.
It really puts things in perspective. This ruling didn't happen in a vacuum, did it? Can you briefly sketch the history of corporate political funding rules in India before this?
Sure. It's been a bit of a back and forth. Initially, it was unregulated. Then, back in the 60s, a cap and disclosure rules came in. Then a complete ban in 1969. Later, it was allowed again, but with a cap. By 2013, it was at 7.5% of net profits, figure we mentioned, plus disclosure.
And then the 2017 Finance Act changed everything.
Right. That act brought in the electoral bonds, removed the corporate funding cap, and crucially exempted these bond donations from disclosure under election and tax laws. So this Supreme Court verdict essentially rolls back those 2017 changes, bringing back principles of transparency and limits.
So bringing it all together, what was the final definitive ruling from the Supreme Court? What did they order?
The final verdict was clear.
Yeah.
The electoral bond scheme is unconstitutional, struck down. Same for those related amendments to the Representation of the People Act, the Companies Act, the Income Tax Act, and the RBI Act. And importantly, removing that cap on corporate funding also struck down as arbitrary.
And what needed to happen immediately?
Immediate actions were ordered. The State Bank of India, they were the only bank authorized to issue these bonds, had to stop issuing them right away. And they were given a deadline, March 6, 2024, to give the Election Commission of India all the details. Dates of purchase, who bought the bonds, the value, for every bond bought since April 12, 2019.
Wow, all the details. And what about the parties who received the money?
Same deadline. SBI also had to provide details of every bond cashed by political parties, the date, the denomination again, to the Election Commission.
And the Election Commission's role?
Their mandate was to publish all of this data on their official website by March 13th, 2024, making it public information.
So full disclosure, essentially.
Full disclosure. And one final point. Any bonds that hadn't been cashed yet but were still within their 15-day validity period had to be returned. The buyers would get a refund.
This is really a fundamental shift, then. It emphasizes that transparency is key for the will of the people to mean something. It gives you, the listener, the voter, tools to see who might be influencing the political landscape.
Absolutely. Knowing where the money comes from allows for more informed decisions, more critical engagement.
It certainly raises a big question for all of us as we look ahead. How will having this information change the way you scrutinize and interact with those asking for your vote? Something significant to think about for the health of our democracy.